Well, hello there, sir.
What's
How are
happening?
you?
Uh, busy, crazy. How about you?
Crazy busy. It doesn't end. Crazy, crazy busy.
Yep.
Story of my life.
All right. It looks like
So,
we've got three people in the room, six people in the room. Hey guys.
wow,
Hey,
how's it going, everybody? So I'm gonna
Jen.
warn you all. Okay, I am my children. I'm solo tonight. My children are
Hey,
may
Jen.
come down into the room. So I'm just gonna put that out there right now. If I'm interrupted, I apologize. It is what it is. Um, but yeah. So how are you doing? How was your week?
Busy. Starting a new job tomorrow.
Oh, what is that?
It's in the same business, but I'm going to be a director of sales.
Okay.
I'm going to be a manager.
Good for you, moving up in the world. Good for you,
Trying.
buddy.
Oh,
So,
trying.
okay. Does that mean that you're going to be traveling as much?
No, it's remote.
How amazing is that?
It's
Congratulations.
great. It's oh, crack my neck. It's great. Um, I've never. Hey Jane. Hey Brent. I have Barbara. I have never done a remote position before. So, they sent me, I didn't even know this was coming. They sent me a brand new Surface 3 laptop with keyboard and bag. And I'm like, "Oh." Brand new set of headphones with the microphone on it and all of that. I'm like, okay,
How cool is that? Moving up in the world. How
that's
great
it.
is that?
Hey,
That's good.
Brent. Hey,
My
Rory.
week, my week was pretty busy, and you know what? I don't know what kind of negativity is happening in the world, but this is kind of what inspired us
Different team.
to do the topic on the show tonight, which is the dark side of paranormal.
Right.
Um, I had a crazy week. I've done multiple cleansings. I've dealt with multiple demonic cases. I've dealt with multiple black magic cases where
Oh,
people are being hit with black magic. I have dealt with it's absolutely hard for me. It's absolutely been a negative week. I've had to cleanse my house multiple times. I've had to send light to different people, from physical ailments to financial problems to you name it. It is happening this week. And so I'm just hoping that I don't know if because it's the thinnest, the veil is the thinnest, or if it's the fact that we're in a spiritual warfare, but
right.
something is going on. So I'm really curious, everybody in the audience, how has your week been? Have you had a rough, dark week? Have you noticed negativity? Are you noticing people are negative? Yeah, has there been an increase in paranormal activity? What is going on your end? I would love to know this.
Yeah, I'm not on that side of it this week, so I haven't got any complaints.
That's good. Well, maybe it's just me. I don't know. Who
Yeah,
knows?
Taurus is rough.
It's,
Um,
it's been crazy.
and Joanne said a lot of people are coming down with colds. And now I know down here in the states where the flu A and B is running rampant. On top of that, strep is
My
running
God.
rampant. So a lot of people are catching that. Um, yeah, Jen Dackler is talking about, her week was crazy too. She had to get a car fixed.
Mhm.
Hey, Valerie. Yeah, and then Valerie says it's been a week, kind of thing. So yeah, it's evidently not you. It's not just you. There's a
I
lot
don't
of
know what
people.
is going down. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I thought, Richard and I talked about it, and we thought this is going to be a great opportunity to
Yeah,
kind of branch into the dark side of paranormal. I mean, we've touched on things before, but really getting into the nitty gritty um of the dark side of paranormal. Um, we're going to be having a guest on the show coming up in a couple weeks, right, Richard? You've talked about this. Um, and I'm curious to hear his input too. Is He's a specialist. Jeremy Leonard is a specialist in this. Um, but that 28 Days Haunted, like, unbelievable, guys. If you haven't seen it, and I'm not plugging, this is not. I'm saying this with integrity. It
yeah.
is a good show. Okay, I'm not plugging. I'm saying realistically, I watched the episode. I gave it a good open mind. Some things are good, some things are bad. Richard, you and I have talked about it. You're a fan of the show, and so was I. But it really got into the bare bones of a paranormal investigation and what can happen, even if you are a seasoned, well-respected, knowledgeable paranormal investigator. How much it can affect you. Like,
Well,
you know,
it did. I mean, that was the whole premise behind the show. That's one of the reasons why I liked it. It was a different approach. And it was an approach of, here, it takes 28 days to get deep enough through the veil to make the connection happen the way it should. I was more of a fan of the flow of the show, how it went down, what the ideals were, what the strategies were, which all made sense. And you have to think, if you had that much time in one of the worst locations, well, all right, one of the most active locations you've ever been in, would you want to put in 28 days? Would you want to spend the night there, live there, eat there, sleep there? Would you? We're real big as an investigative world going into a building, coming out 8 to 12 hours later and going, oh man, my ass got kicked, or whatever. Now do 28 days of that. It's unhealthy.
No,
I
yeah.
agree with it, is that it is unhealthy. Thankfully I saw in a couple of episodes where they had medics available, which again is a really great thing, because I felt it very necessary. You go through a lot of turmoil personally. Hey, Jeff, a lot of turmoil personally when you do that kind of long-term investigative work. A lot of it. Hey, Stephanie.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. So we very rarely do we. Sorry. What were you saying?
That's what made me a fan of it. It was the premise of the show, and the strategy and the breakdown of the show. You got to go away from your family, your kids, for 28 days. That leaves an emotional toll on most. I mean, being a parent, you're a parent, I'm a parent. Being a parent, being away from your kids, especially the little ones, 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever, anything that age or down, that leaves a very big burden on your heart after a while.
Absolutely.
And then now, by the way, you're dealing with some negative, nasty paranormal activity. Now that adds to it. So it's going to make you vulnerable. You become almost a weak link. We talked about that before we came on the air too. You become the weak link in that investigative cycle. Whereas I think a guy or a gal who are, single, no family ties, out to learn how to do this, doesn't have as big a burden emotionally with family attachments, things like that. So I think there's a different effect on it. But when you looked at that show, I believe everybody except for the one team had kids.
Yep.
Yep.
No, absolutely. Going into the dark side of the paranormal, and talking about this. Hey, Brian. Talking about this. I think that when talking about dark side, we all know that there's the scary television side of the paranormal, but we don't really talk about the dark side and the aftermath of going into the investigations, of dedicating your time, your energy field, and realistically, the essence of yourself doing this stuff. I think as a viewer on sitting back on a television show and witnessing this stuff, watching it and enjoying it for entertainment purposes, people really don't understand how much of a hold that this stuff can be on you and how much on a daily basis it can affect you. People are affected much more every day, more than they realize. They may not even be aware of it at all. And so I think it's so important, calibration, and, going back to the show, like I would have had to have a few spa days to feel that, I felt okay about it. Like I really would have had to take some time out of my life to be like, I couldn't go back to work on a Monday morning and start work again like nothing happened. Essentially, I mean, I'm a psychic, so it is my world. But you understand what I mean? As a normal 9 to 5, doing something like that, it's just not plausible. It's absolutely not plausible. And so I really kind of think that it's so important that we talk about this, because it affects people. I have maintained on one of the TV shows that I did, I have maintained since day one, when I found out she passed away, that there was a very well-respected psychic medium that was dealing with a demonic case. And a week later, her organs started to shut down and she ended up dying. And I am 1000% of a believer that it was the paranormal that created that. I truly believe that she died as a result of her job, workplace accident, if that's what you want to call it. So I think that we're stuck in that respect, because how do you get out of something like that? How do you fight something that you can't see, you can't feel, you can't hear, you may not even know that you've taken home with you?
You don't. I mean, if you think about it, I've been on a lot of investigations over the years where you come up the next morning and you got paranormal hangover.
Yeah.
Paranormal hangover is real. Now that's after one night. But now again, you're physically putting yourself in a position with this particular show where for 27 nights, 28 nights, you're sleeping there, you're eating there, you're investigating there, you're sleeping there, you're eating there, investigating. You're not getting a break. You're not allowed to have phone contact the outside world. You have a laptop to be able to review evidence.
Right.
That's it. So your only contact with the outside world is maybe the production company, maybe, and the partner you're with.
Right.
So I'm really anxious to get Jeremy on here next week. Jeremy Leonard has been on a few shows. He did A Haunting. He did Ghosts of Morgan City. Then now 28 Days. And, I really want to get his take on it tomorrow. And I want to know what toll it took on him. Because we don't know, right? We saw the end of the show. We saw the finale of the program where he walks away and he leers into the camera. Now, that meant something to me. And I'm like, nah. So I want to know, with that level of exposure, how long, if at all, because it could be permanent damage, you never know, how much damage did you do to yourself? Because you exposed yourself to that negative dark crap. I don't want to do it for more than 8 or 9 hours. So, because there's a toll your body takes, there's a toll your emotions take, there's a toll metaphysically you take. So it's kind of interesting because there's so much of the paranormal that is dark that people just don't really look at really well.
I'm a firm believer that right now we're actually in a spiritual warfare. And I'm not even talking about paranormal. I'm not talking about television. I'm not talking about grabbing equipment and going. I'm really talking about what is happening around the world right now. I feel that we are in a spiritual warfare. I'm probably going to get flack by saying this, but I do. And I feel like light workers, people of the light, people that are trying to help others, who are self-aware, who are cognizant, I feel like they are being attacked. I feel anybody who, I know many psychics, psychic mediums, I know many paranormal investigators, demonologists, spiritual workers, light workers. We are all being attacked from health to emotional damage because there's something bigger going on than we realize. And I really feel that something's going on. Now, some of the signs and symptoms, are physical ailments. So let's dial it back a little bit. We'll dial it back even farther than a paranormal investigator. So the common dude, the common person who may watch a paranormal show the odd time, or may not even be a believer of the paranormal. The way the energy transfers, energy does not dissipate, it transfers, right? So because it transfers and it goes from place to place to place, person to person to person, you may walk into a grocery store and that energy you may walk into that energy field. And because you're in that energy field, you would now grab some and it comes on you. And because it comes onto you, you now carry it and you own it as if it's yours.
Yep.
Okay? Because of that, because of that, sorry,
You went
whoop,
sideways on
I'm
me.
going funky. Because of that, um, we are dealing with these emotional distresses much more than we even know about. We're taking it home. I went funny. We're taking it home. I'm sorry, I got a phone call. Of course, I got a phone call in the middle of the show. We're taking it home, and then we are now transferring it to our friends and our family, and that's how the energy field works. Okay, so think of it I always chalk it up to, I'm a farm girl, so I grew up on a farm, and if you were to walk up and touch the electric fence, it would shock you. But if you grab the electric fence and you grab somebody else, the current would go through you and it would end up hitting that next person. Okay, so it's the last person it would ground out through them. I feel like energy is the same way. Okay. Energy is the same way. So it continues on as it builds in your energy field. And you can modify it a little bit. You can dissipate it. You can change the neuropathic. We won't get into quantum physics, but you can change that and change the attitude of that energy. But a lot of people are not aware of it to do that. And so I think that a lot of the stuff that we carry today, energy, paranormal, spirits, ghosts, we don't even realize we're doing it. We don't even know it's there.
No. And, and a lot of people are, they go through life with, negative attachment or negative, what I call paranormal sludge, right? Negative energy laying on top of them. And they're just writing stuff off to being bad luck. And,
Right.
and just the world hates me. And most likely it's not the world. Most likely it's something you picked up somewhere. It's a really odd occasion that you'll have people that aren't in the paranormal field getting captured or attracted or affected by the negative, but it happens. I had a case where I had a family that called me out because they were having some really crazy crap happening in their home, and come to find out that there was a negative energy living off the 3-year-old's screams. He would terrorize
Right.
this 3-year-old, which was a medium. Child was a medium, and he would make her scream just to be able to take her thermal energy and move on. Now,
Right.
the family didn't know anything about that. They weren't out here with a K2 meter trying to figure it out. They got in the path of the negative energy, and it just happened to hit them.
Right.
We're the crazies. We choose to get caught up in the middle of it from time to time if we have to. We write it off as an experience that we get, and that's just the mark of the experience. But
Right.
innocently, people are getting captured by this negative energy, and it just snowballs, and people just don't realize there's a danger to the paranormal. It's great to be an enthusiast minimally, but I've got people that want to jump out and be investigators, and I'm like, okay, have you ever investigated before? No.
Right.
Why don't you do a tour first? And
Yeah.
at
How
the
about
end, we'll talk about that, okay? So I don't know.
but how about the ones that not only do they want to start investigating, but they want to jump out into the the demonic cases and the scariest cases because they don't, it's the ones that have no experience that I find are the most vulnerable.
Oh yeah,
right? Because they don't know. Ignorance is bliss. And being in this field for quite some time, if I had known then what I know now, I would not have approached some of my investigations the way I did. However, now I know what I know, right? So this is why we do what we do, and we have the show because we can try to warn people. And I don't want to, Richard and I don't want to deter you from wanting to learn. We want you to enjoy. We want you to enjoy.
But we want you to be conscientious of what you're getting yourself into.
Yes. Yes, exactly. We want you to feel comfortable, doing what you want to do. If you choose to go ahead and want to investigate and try to experiment with this stuff, we just ask you to take it seriously. It's not a game. It's not a joke. It is something that should be taken seriously.
Well, then Anne-Marie said some look for that weakest link, and that's absolutely true. You could have a group of, I've got on my team now active investigators. I have, including myself, we have 8. And when you're in a group setting in an investigation where there's some negative energy or the activity is hot, they will look for the weakest link. And just saying weakest link might not be because you don't really know what you're doing or you're brand new. It could be that metaphysically you're not prepared for that investigation. So now that makes
Right.
you the weakest link. Or you may have a lot of fear energy that goes out when something happens during an investigation. You become the fodder. You become the feeding factor for that energy because fear energy they thrive off of. Because again, when you have fear energy, your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, and you give out thermal energy and you become the buffet. They want you because you just became the weakest link. And I've said that time and time again to my team. Are you okay? Is everybody good? If everybody isn't good, maybe you need to sit this out. Maybe you need to, watch monitors or something. I don't know. You need to do something because
Yeah.
not investigate. That's a hard pill to swallow when you want to jump in there and do it. But you got
Exactly.
to be prepared. You got to be prepared. So that's a good point about the weakest link. I like it.
Right. Absolutely. And I mean, excuse me, guys, I'm still getting over a cold. I
All
think
right,
too,
there we go.
yes, absolutely, Joanne.
That's the problem with sensationalizing drama, and it is because it
Thank
becomes
you, Joanne.
dangerous. It becomes dangerous. That was one of the reasons why, for example, I never used Ouija boards on my shows when I
Mhm.
did my shows. I wouldn't, not because I was afraid of it, but because I was concerned about that 11, 12-year-old kid who sees the show and goes, man, they do that. They use that Ouija board in their show. I can do it at home. And next thing I know, I feel responsible because some kid brought a flipping demon in their house or something, and I feel responsible for that. So,
Mhm.
I mean, that to me is just the point I'm making for that is simple. Just say you have a responsibility to not put people in harm's way as well with negative energy from the paranormal, the dark side, as we call it. Yeah, I mean, you got to really be careful.
So let's look into a couple
Yeah,
symptoms, okay? And the way that malevolent energy and I don't like to go demonic, but I think it's important to kind of emphasize that for people that don't know how demonic energy works. So there's four things that occur with demonic energy. Okay, there's oppression, there's suppression, depression, and finally possession. And sometimes it takes years for the full possession to occur. People think that, because of the Exorcist movie, because of certain television shows, that you just automatically get possessed. But sometimes it takes years. The whole premise, the whole goal of a demonic entity is to basically take your free will. They're taking your spiritual energy, they're taking your free will, they're taking you away. Okay. And they're empowering themselves over you. And it depends on somebody's willpower. It depends on how long this individual has been depressed or what they're going through in life or how they feel about certain things. And it takes time for them to wear down. Some people wear down faster than others. And if you are not aware of what is going on, it can happen a hell of a lot faster. So it likes to kind of demonic energy likes to make you feel crazy. It likes to make you feel it's not something that's lazy. It doesn't jump out and scare you, but it'll make you witness things that other people will not see or feel or hear or touch. And so driving you to kind of separate yourself from people through that oppression and makes you tired, gives you headaches, gives you stomach aches, makes you feel sick to your stomach. All of these things start to occur to break your willpower down so that you become compliant.
yeah,
And once compliant, the depression sets in and the suppression sets in and then the possession sets in. And once you're at that level, there's kind of, I don't want to say there's no turning back, but that's when you have to hire somebody with a better, higher pay grade. Above my pay grade, you got to hire somebody to try and come in and take that. And sometimes it takes years to get rid of a possession. It's not something that somebody throws some holy water around sometimes and gets rid of it. Sometimes it can take years or a lifetime.
yeah. And a lot of it, I think, has to also do with the essence of the person that's being involved. I think it has a
Absolutely.
lot to do with that because there are a lot of people out in this world, unfortunately, that like to lean on the darker side,
Mm-hmm.
and when they are and they're in that mindset of I'm okay with this, it'll be okay with it. All you're doing is feeding it to it. Herbie said people using spirit boards don't really have the experience to use it they still believe it's a game board, not realizing they could open doors. Exactly, and that's one of the reasons why, again, I never use them on our show, because a lot of people can use them and open a door. I will guarantee you, if I had to throw a percentage on it, I would say 90 some odd percent don't know how to close it.
Right. Okay, so I'm gonna pick up the phone and I'm gonna dial a number, right? I'm calling somebody right now. Okay. My active intent is who I'm phoning on that phone, right? I have a phone number and a person I have intent to speak to or to communicate with. Would I pick up the phone and just dial any random number to call somebody? No, I wouldn't. Okay. That when you have a Ouija board or you're doing any types of divination in that respect, you are literally just dialing a random number to see who picks up. You're inviting yourself into that person's energy field and opening the door for them to have your number and call you back or communicate with you. It's really important, if you're going to be using Ouija boards and stuff like that, have an active intent in who to which you're communicating with. You know, is it Donnie, the janitor that died in the school, that you only want to communicate with? Then you have that active intent when you open up the Ouija board. Nobody else can come through except for the person that I am channeling. That's how you can make yourself a little bit more safer, but people don't know that. And it goes for all pieces of paranormal equipment, and not even paranormal equipment. When you're using any scrying, mirrors, all of that stuff, you know, you can open up a much bigger Pandora's box than you realize.
Well, do you remember the whole thing with Charlie?
Yep.
I mean, that was done with 2 pencils and a piece of paper.
Right.
Exactly. So Adam said, is being tested the same as negative energy attacking you? What that means to me, when you're being tested, is trying to wear you down. It's trying to find out where your weak points are. And it'll work your weak points, but it's got to figure out where they are first. So wherever you cave is where it'll go first. And you have to remember too, with a lot of very high energy, not high energy, it's a mistake, very high powered negative energy, or even demonic, they're cerebral assassins. They're not physical assassins. So they're going to go for the mind. They're going to go for whatever they can do to convince you to do stupid things, hurt yourself, what have you. But yeah, I would assume the test is a way for it to be attacking you to a degree. Just depends, I guess, on the level of testing that they're putting you through. But if you're constantly being tested by a dark entity, that to me, that's an attack in some way. To me, that's just kind of, that's not necessary. And you're doing it to get to me. So,
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we've got a bunch of people in here. Well, here we go. So, how come people can get demonic and not angels? All right.
Oh, great question, Joanne.
Great question. So, demonic activity, even negative activity, energy, feeds, again, off of victims, right? The angelic energy, kind of like, for example, like a harbinger angel, they're on the other end. It's kind of like a polar opposite of a battery. You look at a battery, one's a negative, one's a positive. Right? You got to have one, you got to have both to, for the good and evil fight to begin, right? But the negative or demonic side of it feeds off of something that the angelic does not. The negative, for example, that I've had in my experience, will go after you because you are an easy target for energy, for your life force, for whatever. I have never had any experience with any kind of angelic energy that had a negative effect on a person, right? So that's kind of where the pole opposite of the batteries come in. One's negative, one's positive. But that's kind of that's really kind of what I believe you're looking at. What do you think about that, Katie?
I agree. And here's the thing. If you don't think for 1 minute that your spirit team is not trying to help you through the whole process, there's only so much they can do without your consent. Okay? So, excuse me. Our guides, our angels, that come through, they have to have permission in order to help. So they can only do so much on the other side when you become a victim of these things. And if you don't think for 1 minute that they don't keep you alive, in a lot of circumstances they do. but again, it's a battle of give and take and give and take and give and take. And so it's that weak moment of vulnerability that's when the demonic kind of gets in and gets that field goal. And it's at that point where, you know, they're closing in, and the angels can't do anything until you are aware of it. And it's at that point when somebody who has full strength, who is able to walk in and banish this demonic energy, who's able to do an exorcism or a cleansing, that's when, for example, Archangel Raphael, Archangel Michael, all of these entities can come in and assist in the cleansing process. And that's why 90% of the time, I'm throwing a number out there. I shouldn't say 90 because I'm not sure, but a large majority of the reasons why exorcisms are successful, because it's not a matter of what is stronger, it's a matter of who has the advantage. And a lot of the demonic possessions that you see, they had the energy has manipulated the individual into thinking there's nothing wrong with them, and almost creating a bond that your spirit doesn't want to get rid of this demonic energy. And so you almost, I don't want to say fall in love with, but you're bonded with it and you protect this demonic energy. That's how much it's manipulating you. So it's at the point where the clarity comes, where the outside source comes with holy, angelic, as you want to call it, help, that's when that warfare happens. And, the spiritual side or God side wins every, I'm going to say almost every time.
Yeah. Yeah. Mario said, I personally don't think there's much difference between the Ouija board and the use of ITC instruments.
Agreed, okay. Mario. Agreed.
Yeah. So here's the thing. The only thing I see is an issue that it kind of is going to lead into Herbie's statement. So let me clear Mario's. Let me go up, bring up Herbie's, and it'll help me be able to explain a little bit better. So here's the thing. There's a lot of drama around the how do I explain this eloquently? There's a lot of drama around the paranormal for those that are not experienced in it. The talking boards, Ouija boards, okay, have an allure or an attraction because, oh my God, I put my hand on top of this planchette and holy crap, it moved on its own. Let me do it again. And then we do it again, and then we do it again next weekend with our friends, and oh my God, they do it again. So this kind of touches on both aspects. No, there's no difference. Conjuring is conjuring. You do an EVP session in somebody's property or house or location, you're conjuring. You're asking for an answer. You're performing a seance. So same difference. But the thing of it is with the addiction that Herbie's bringing up, I kind of agree with that a lot because I've seen a lot of people get the oh wow factor from using a Ouija board because of the involvement, because it involves you. Now, ITC devices, they might say a word, might say a couple of words, that are intelligible answers, but using a talking board, Ouija board, it's interactive. So you become more addicted to the interaction. And that's where it becomes a real problem. Because you got to remember, these things were sold in the U.S. They were sold in Toys R Us for $12 to kids 7 or older. So it's not really the cardboard or the plastic planchette. It's the conjuring behind it. But it's addictive when you get your fingers moved or your planchette moves even on its own to get answers. You're going to go back because you think it's cool. You don't even know what you're dealing with. You open up a door where good, bad, and ugly come in. You don't have you don't have an idea what you're dealing with. But that I like the way you asked that or said that, Herbie. I appreciate it because I believe you're completely correct. Yeah. Now, Jeff, and we'll let you take this one, Katie. What are examples of suppression symptoms during a demonic takeover?
Okay, good question. So as I said, there's 4 things: oppression, suppression, depression, and possession. So oppression, excuse me, guys. Oppression is kind of keeping you tired, keeping you feeling sick, keeping you lack of energy, not on an emotional depression level, where the depression is you're sad, you're vulnerable. The suppression is keeping you away from your daily life, Okay, keeping you up into your room, keeping you in bed, not wanting to communicate with other people. You're isolating yourself. That's kind of what things of suppression I would consider. It's kind of, there's subcategories to it. There's repression. There's a few other things, but to give you the biggest kind of example, I would say, where you're kind of stepping away from people. You're not wanting to be with people anymore. You're not wanting to do your daily activities. You're kind of, it's cruel and unjust in the sense that you would rather mope around. You don't want to shower anymore. You don't want to eat healthy food. You don't care about life. It's not the emotional side of the depression. That all of these things start to happen physically and emotionally, and then the possession occurs.
Right. Great answer. I love it. Thank you. Anne Marie said, demons and negative energy hate love. All right, so let me kind of give you an example of what that's about. I had a case not too long ago, and this happens when you do residential cases. They claim negative activity in the home. When you walk in and the house is cluttered, when you walk in and a woman's complaining about fighting with her husband, or the husband's complaining about fighting with his wife all the time, and every time we get in the bedroom we argue and we fight and there's no reason for it, that is what the negative energy is feeding off of. It'll throw you that curveball just to make you fight. The clutter is going to be frustrating because it's cluttered just to put you in a bad mood. So it's going to just live off of you like you're a buffet. So that's hard to change the essence of who you are as a couple, but you got to understand, to Emery's point, when you can turn that around and you can kind of make it, we're going to fight through it, we're a family, we love each other, and go through that. And let's get the house cleaned up. And that is my recommendation to a lot of people not gone in and seen this. It's not like they're slobs, just something has happened to them. The suppression, for example, something has happened to make them not give a damn. And then when you don't give a damn, it's frustrating because it's not happening, but you don't give a damn. And then you just go into that, and then you go into arguments with your spouse and everything else. Even just you and your kids, you get into arguments with your kids for no reason at all. It'll just feed off of that. Then you change that into positive energy. Yeah, you're going to have something that's going to want to go because you're not going to want to be around it. And Brian made a point about the ITC stuff. He said, bottom line with ITC versus Ouija boards is that the ITC, you can just shut it off. I still personally, even with ITC stuff, I still personally will try to push the energy back. Just because to me, just shutting it off doesn't mean they get to be pushed away and be, back under that side of the rule. They've got to be, to me, it's got to be done where they understand, hey, I'm done with you. Okay, I'm pushing the energy back. I'm taking back my energy. I'm pushing your energy back. I no longer want to talk to you. You have to still do, I think you still have to set the border, the line in the sand. And that to me is the way to close it off when you're doing an EVP session or whatever. All right, so then Adam said, what would you do if your house or a person has such bad energy attached to them that even priests will refuse to help?
You know what? I've actually dealt with a case very similar to this, where the priest had already gone in. Excuse me. The priests had already gone in and did all they could, and it was actually I ended up working with the diocese to try and get this going. And in this demonic case, this was an elderly woman. She was a very high member of her parish. She used to go to church 2 or 3 times a week. It ended up pushing her down the stairs and breaking her legs. It pushed her face into her fireplace, pushed her into the fireplace, pushed her in between her washer and dryer. She was stuck there. It would make all of her water bottles rancid. So she'd open up a new water bottle and take a sip. She'd put it down. It'd come back. It would make it like rancid. It absolutely ruined this woman's life to the point where they thought, because she was elderly, they thought that she needed to go into a home because she was losing her mind. And her grandson contacted me and was like, I don't know what's going on. She feels that it's demonic. We don't know what to do. Help us, please. And we had gone in And we did the investigation and determined it was in fact demonic. I dealt with the diocese and dealt with, they gave me the first rights to be able to go in and do what I needed to do. I'd gone in, we did the cleansings, we were able to get rid of this thing. But let me tell you, when I say that it was one tough cookie, it was one tough cookie, to the point where it actually had gone to the Vatican to see if they could hire a bishop to come and do an exorcism, which takes years. This is not something that you can just get overnight. And thankfully, we were able to get rid of it. It tried 2 weeks later to come back in, and we were able to banish it. And it ended up leaving. The woman moved back into her house. All went well. It was fabulous, and as far as I know, she's okay today.
There you go. That's good news to hear. That's really good news to hear. Tara said, would you use the same protocols with the Ouija board as you would use with using a pendulum? Okay. I'm going to give you the trucker version. And then my colleague over here is going to give you the more Wikipedia version. All right, so here's an example. I don't use pendulums very often, but I use human pendulums very often. Ouija boards, anything like that, again, you're conjuring, right? So with a pendulum, you're asking questions. You're asking questions. You're hoping for the pendulum to swing a certain direction to answer that question. You're still conjuring no matter what you do. So yeah, the protocols would be the same. When I use a human pendulum, before each person steps out of the middle of the pendulum effect, energy spirits away from them and not allowing them and commanding them that they can't follow them home. You must move on. You must detach yourself from this person. Because I have had such really great connections with the human pendulum, so I've literally had people come up off their feet being moved by a spirit. I've had it to where every woman in a circle cried because of their connection to a female in the building. It gets really intense. So you've got to learn how to stop that energy, disconnect, that energy from your pendulum experiment, a Ouija board, whatever. Again, you have to remember, it's like turning a water, here's an example, it's like turning a water faucet on and sit back. Now tell it to shut off. He's not going to shut off. You've got to literally shut that water faucet off to stop the flow. It's the same thing with energy in a Ouija board experiment, pendulum, human pendulum, whatever you're using to conjure, even when you're doing EVP sessions, again, you have to stop that energy flow. And that'll protect you, it'll protect your folks, it'll protect the people you're working with or investigating with, what have you. But you've got to use the same protocol. So that's a great question, Otara. Great question.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a bunch in here. Oh, okay. Anne-Marie said...
Excuse me. I'm sorry, guys.
What's that?
I'm coughing up, and I apologize, guys. I'm getting over a lung infection, so I'm really sorry if I'm coughing.
I'm not going to pay, guys. Don't worry about it. Anne-Marie said, with the ITC stuff, you need to have a connection with your equipment. Give the machine time to collect anything that might have been brought through, like a countdown with the internet. Okay, that's actually a pretty good approach. I think one of the things I've seen with people who use ITC devices is that they turn it on and they don't give the energy a chance to cycle through. Now, I believe that's what you're talking about, is having the energy actually cycle through. And that's really what has to happen. Because I've had people turn them on. You got to remember they are actually able to pick up AM, FM radio stations, right? So let the energy get a chance to cycle through. 15, 20 seconds worth of chill when you have it turned on. Then start asking questions that are relevant, that they can give you relevant answers on. If it's an intelligent, investigation haunt, then that's great. But yeah, I'm with you on that. You have to give everything a little bit of time to kind of chill out, get engaged, get that cycle going in the right direction before you just start throwing questions at it. Brian, trucker version. That's right, buddy. It's a trucker version. All right. So then Georgia said, Richard, how do you cut the link when doing a human pendulum? You just mentioned this. Okay. So the human pendulum involves 5 people. Okay, plus the person asking questions. So I call that the director of the pendulum. So you've got each person at each point in the compass on the outside of the circle, and you got one person on the inside of the circle. I then ask spirit to come forward and manipulate that person physically in a direction for them that's a yes. So that way spirit will move the person and that'll do that. If it's affirmative enough for me to agree with it, that that's really the answer for yes, great. If not, I'll ask again. Same thing with for no, right? So I then ask the spirit questions and they move them, yes or no, depending upon which way they decided. Sometimes it's completely different. Sometimes it's even sideways. But then again, what I do is when we're done asking questions, I may go 8 to 9 questions for each person in the circle of the pendulum. But when I'm done with that, I then halt it. I take the person, take a deep breath in, let it out. I then engage spirit again vocally and say, at this time I'm going to ask you to disconnect from Katie. Okay, I'm going to need you to step away from her. She's no longer going to answer questions from you or for you, and you need to not follow her home. You need to disconnect. You need to disconnect now and take your energy back. And I will do that with everybody who gets in the middle of the pendulum. And it has been a whirlwind of a tool to use that you don't have to spend any money on. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Here's the thing, too, guys. Excuse me. You don't have to buy a Ouija board. If you're wanting to do this, if this is something that you're wanting to do, and I'm not promoting it, but I'm simply stating facts, you can make one on a piece of paper. You can draw it out. You can use a glass. A lot of people will take a cup, flip it upside down, and use that as a planchette. There's very different reasons and ways of doing it. We do table tipping. So I have a specific table that's got energy connected to it, and we do table tipping. When the last investigation we were on, we brought the table out, and it's a square table. It's a little table. If I had it close, I'd show it to you. And basically we ask the questions and it moves around and gives us the answers. So, there's different methodology to this and how you can go about it. But the bottom line is staying safe with this stuff and recognizing what is coming through and what isn't. I've said 1,000 times, if you don't want to fall off the horse, don't get on the horse, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And it's not always going to be demonic. Demonic is only a small portion of what you could bring home with you. So there's a lot of things, we're kind of going to the worst case scenario, but you can come home depressed or sick and some malevolent energy will do the same thing. Some negative energy will do the same thing. It's not just demonic that causes these symptoms. The hard part is determining what you're dealing with, because a demon is not going to go, oh, I'm a demon. Demon's going to do everything in its power to trick you into thinking you're crazy, first of all, and second of all, that it could be this lovely little girl, or I'm really here. I'll give you an example. I spoke to a gentleman today who's been having, we feel, demonic infiltration. I'm going to call it demonic infiltration. Okay, and within that, in those case scenarios, malevolent and demonic energy needs an invitation. And we've said that 100 times, whether it be, conscious or subconscious. So he was having these dreams and he said to me, Katie, I had this dream of an old friend of mine who was a very kind soul. He passed away. Excuse me. I used to work with him. And the last 2 or 3 nights I've been having this dream about him, and I'm sitting and I get a knock on the door, and it's this gentleman, and both dreams were the same. And both times the gentleman said to me in the dream, how's it going? How are you? Are you well? Can I come in? And the gentleman said to me, what do you think that this dream represents? And I said, don't do it. He said, I felt sick when I woke up. I was like, don't do it. That is a very good example of how malevolent or demonic energy is trying to get you to invite it in. I had a demonic case, an evil case in my own home, and how it came in was through my daughter. It was able to, she was young at the time, she was 4 or 5. It was able to manipulate her into thinking that it was this little kid, this person, and, yes, of course you can come over to play. And so it was hard for me to get rid of, but I managed to get rid of it. And so it's that simple. It's not what you think. It's not, you don't have to go to this, portals of hell to bring a demon home. It can drive by and see you're vulnerable and start to wreak havoc in your life.
No, absolutely. Herbie said there seems to be a lot of ways to summon spirits. In my opinion, it seems that one must try to be spiritually grounded to leave the negative, but can positive spirits follow you home? Yeah, spirits can follow you. If they can attach to your energy, they can follow you home. You've got to be careful. Because they don't have, even with spirits that don't have ill intent, because everything is based on intent. If they don't have ill intent, you still could have an attachment that way. Again, they need thermal heat to survive. Okay, they do. So you are you can be a cavalcade of good times and not be a demonic attachment. I've seen it happen. But yeah, there are a milliard of ways to be able to summon spirits. And then Anne, you never heard of that before, Weiner. Anne, if you want to learn more about the human pendulum, you can just reach out to me on Facebook, and I can kind of coach you through that part of it. Because it's important that you know the right and wrong way to do it. Because again, it's just as important to get the answers as be able to push the energy back. Like I said, you've got to be able to learn how to close that door as well as open it. So it is, and it's I've had my share of personal issues with negative spirits and negative energy, and it wears you down, it wears you out. I've had a shadow person. I had a shadow person some time ago, about a year ago. He infiltrated my apartment, and he about drained me dry every chance he got. It took a lot to remove it. It took a lot to remove that energy, and thankfully I was able to. But again, I don't know where I got him from because it just appeared. It just appeared there. So it's you don't have to do a whole lot of anything to, like we said earlier, you don't have to do a whole lot of anything to be able to pick up a negative spirit, but you've got to know the signs. When you're with your team and you're investigating, or you're with a band of friends and you're investigating, watch each other's behavior. Watch it close. Okay? When people start not acting like themselves, get them out of the building. Get them out of the building and get them in some fresh air. Maybe get them a drink, a Coke or something. Just get them out of the building, because the fastest way to stop an attachment from happening or to lessen negative energy from controlling your life is to separate yourself from the energy. You have to, but you have to watch yourselves. That's why when I hear people going to places by themselves, no, ma'am. No, and no again. That's not smart. Not smart at all.
Yeah. So, excuse me.
Anne Marie said, I had to sit with my shadow self more than 1% to get stronger. More than one time to get stronger. Not quite sure what you mean by that, Anne. But if you want to explain, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So let's look into so we talk about demonic malevolent energy, but let's kind of switch a little bit to magic. We're gonna go voodoo. we're gonna talk about, and we're gonna get some people on the show as guests to talk a little bit more about this. But let me tell you, I've dealt with multiple cases, and certain cultural beliefs really believe in magic and use it every day. I was a victim of a magic attack. Sounds crazy, but true. This summer, I had somebody who didn't like me very much, who decided that they wanted to wreak havoc. And, you talk about voodoo doll and things like that. And, that's not necessarily myth. And there's more to it rather than just a voodoo doll. But there are rituals and there are spells that can be cast and curses that can be done. that do cause problems. I had one this week. I had to help. They actually found the magic bag. They found the bag in which all of the we'll call it spices were brought together, and it was found hanging under a bed. And this causes a lot of problems for people. And this was a cultural belief. So this was something that was across the world, and it caused a lot of problems. A lot of problems. In my situation, I ended up having to cleanse myself, my children, my home, my family. And I was aware of it very early. I knew something wasn't right. So here's some of the symptoms. My hair started to fall out. I was starting to get sores all on my face. I was starting to get feeling sick all the time. Every time I wanted to eat, felt like I was going to throw up. There were certain things that were bestowed upon me, and this was because this magical cullet was used against me because I helped somebody originally be aware of the magic. And so this was kind of a retaliation, like, you stopped what I was doing, and not only am I going to add it to that person again, but I'm going to add it to you. And so I had to go through cleansing principles to kind of to get rid of it. So without not even having demonic and spiritual warfare going on, there are evil people in this world that use this to hurt and to cause problems for people.
Yeah, I mean, it's magic. Black magic is absolutely real. There are things that I know of, ceremonies I've seen done that just kind of make you just shake your head in disbelief that black magic is that'll never work. Oh yeah, yeah. And why people? Somebody mentioned on here how could someone not love you? Meaning you, in your story about that. It's not a matter of that. It's a matter of people who hate on others will find a way to rattle their lives. And the fastest way to get to a person that's very, in my opinion, fastest way to get to a person who's very active in the spiritual world is to attack them spiritually, because they're already receptive, they're already open to the metaphysical as it is. So now they became an easier target because they're already open to it. And yeah, I don't
Exactly.
want to talk a whole lot about different methodologies of black magic, only out of fear, but because it could happen. I mean,
Yeah.
it could happen.
I look
It's
at
really
magic
cool.
and
Yeah.
curses kind of like a missile. Okay, in today's society, they can zero that missile in, and they can make that missile um, set on target, so it can go left to right, it can deke up and down. There's anti-missile devices that try to stop it, but bottom line is it goes all around until it gets to its target. The same thing will occur with magic. So you may do all of these things to try to get rid of it, but it's deking until even the person who has done the curse or done the magic has completely forgot about it. Years later, they've moved on, and that tetherment is still there, and so they still use it. The magic is still awakened and being used every day. So it's really important that if you feel like you're a victim of a curse or a magic spell, dark, that you go and seek help right away. Don't leave it. Don't forget. Don't think it's going to dissipate in time. It may go away for a little while, but it will come back. And you have to remember too, if you ever feel like doing something like that to somebody else, there's something that's taken from you to that other person too. Magic has to be balanced. And so you put yourself into that. And that's what the tetherment means, from the predator and the victim.
Yeah. I'm just reading through. We got a ton of stuff I wanted to.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So, like Herbie was saying, when I was younger, my mother and I, went to see this old lady she called Danya Carmen. She was a woman who performed Santeria. Oh, Christ. Danya, Danya means like grand person. Yeah. Santeria is some scary stuff. That is some that plays along a lot of different lines, and it really concerns me to even discuss a whole lot about Santeria Next. Um, but for example, I went to a location to film, and there was a man-made altar in this warehouse that people were committing and yeah, committing to Santeria and Voodoo acts and ceremonies in. Like that area was so bad with negative attachment opportunity. All you had to do was make contact with the altar,
Good
and you
God.
were luggage. So that's how bad it gets, in my experience anyway. But yeah, that's Santeria and some crazy stuff, man.
Well, let's talk about that for a little bit, because what people don't realize is you may pick something up at a consignment store or an antique store or a thrift store that was used for those rituals, right? A lot of people, when they get scared or see that stuff, they try to get rid of it. And what do you do with it? Do you burn it? Do you bury it? Some people get rid of it and put it in consignment stores. So you're dealing with something that has negative attachment to it. And, when people say to me, I've lived in this house for 30 years, why am I getting paranormal activity now? Well, did you purchase anything new or old? Did you go to a garage sale? Did you find something in the garbage? Did you, what were you gifted something? And 9 times out of 10, they're like, well, I found this old desk, or, somebody gave me this old, I don't know, cross. Just because
Yeah,
it's a cross doesn't mean there's not negative attachment to it.
right. No, exactly. Robin said magic is neither good nor evil. It's intent of the person wielding it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes. Essentially, magic is a recipe. Magic is a recipe, right? You could make a cake and it could be the most delicious cake you've ever eaten in your life, or you can make a cake and add poison to it. And even though it tastes good, it's not good for you. So, yes, absolutely right. Excuse me.
Okay, so Adam said if you were into the occult and wished bad on others but changed faiths later in life, how do you undo the past negatives? By pushing positive. That'll help. Just depends on how much of a mark the negative made. So you can push positive energy that way, and that'll help a person, but not actually a cure all that I know of. Personally, do
So,
you
so
have a
yeah.
better answer?
Well, not a better answer, but look at it like a jail, like somebody, a criminal that's been done their time in prison. Some people are
Okay,
rehabilitated and some people aren't. And those who are rehabilitated you can't get rid of the past. You can't get rid of history, right? So it's all about what you're doing to make up for or repent for the sins that you committed. And if you did one bad act of black magic and you curse somebody, but you spend the rest of your life helping those who are cursed, or trying to fix the problem, and not only acknowledging what you did, but help that person that cut the cord to the black magic, it's going to help.
yep, true. Kathy said, can a person be sensitive to certain people? I went into a shop with a friend once, felt sick to my stomach. I attributed to another person in a store. My friend went closer, and they had a specific sign on their necklace. People's energies, if you're, for example, an empath, people's energies are going to swack you upside the back of the head. So the energy that people have to give off is obvious. I've walked past many a person with, oh God, just because of the energy they were giving out, not because they were whatever, but because the energy they give out is so negative. Here's an example. I did a television show some years ago. I won't say the name. But the host of the show was so negative with attachments that he literally made me ill being near him. And that is what happened. Now you could have gotten it from something in a store too. If it was like an antique store like Kitty's talking about, you could have gotten it from that too. Chances are you probably did get it from that person. People give out energy. They just give it out. And negative energy is misery. Misery loves company.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And excuse me, you don't know if you're dealing with something cryptid. You don't know if you're dealing with something extraterrestrial. You don't know if you're even dealing with something human. So, when they say that an animal knows, and if an animal is growling at a person or an animal, they know energy. Animals know how to read energy. They don't judge it. They know it. And right. You may be a good person, but this dog sees something around you that's causing, them to growl at you. It doesn't make you evil, but there's something around you that they do not agree with. And the same thing goes with people. Okay. You're picking up, you're dialing into that frequency and you're feeling it. But it can go farther. You skinwalkers or like there's many different cryptids that can mask themselves as humans, and you're not even dealing with what you think you're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. I always watch animals around people for that reason. I laugh and joke saying that dogs know people better than people do.
Yeah.
But that's really any animal. Cats
Mm-hmm.
does it. Cats are finicky as it is. Dogs are usually conditional lover type animals. But when you've got a dog that won't come anywhere near a person, there's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the energy they give off that either disturbs the animal, concerns the animal, makes them frightened. I had one that, unfortunately, the poor dog, when I would walk him, we picked him up from the shelter. He was a shelter dog, and I had this gentleman who was dead, who would walk across my front lawn and just disappear in a pine tree in the middle of the front yard. He would just like go. You could see him walk, and then whoop, he was gone. First time I ever went to walk the dog outside. He was on a lead. He wanted to go outside really bad. He gets to the end of the stoop and sees what I see, which is the old man walking, and starts backing up and freaking out because to them it's not like looking at you and I. It's something they just can't understand and figure out. They're trying to figure out what the hell is this and why are you here? It's a strange item, so why are you doing this and that kind of thing. And I always will ask people when I do residentials, are your dogs acting weird? And they'll tell you. They have no problem telling you.
The other thing
Um,
too is, are your animals getting sick? Again, they want to lower your defenses.
yeah.
So an animal is an alarmist. An animal's going to tell you there's something wrong. So if they make your animal sick, your animal doesn't feel like getting up, your animal's laying on the ground, feeling sick, that's when that negative energy can start to come onto you because the animal naturally wants to protect you or alarm you, let you know.
Well, Herbie said magic has a duo side, as all things in nature do. Like voodoo has the white and black, as well as witchcraft. Again, we're getting back to the intent of the person wielding the magic, right? Um, I've known people that have gone through and researched negative magic spells to put on people just because they didn't like who they were. So I mean, you could do that. I've known of many, many white witches that will do things for good and and try to help people. But then you might have that one rogue of a person who just wants to see how much damage they can cause, if anything at all, and they'll do it. So yeah, I mean that's
Right.
all of that's out there, and it's kind of crazy. But negative energy, when you get to, it's kind of where I found out, for example, that my fiance is really a trans medium. She got jumped really badly on the last investigation we were on, and I literally had one of the toughest times in my career straightening that out with her because they went super negative. Even her eyes went dark for a few seconds. They went black. The rest of it, I don't know how much further I can go into it because it's actually going to be part of the documentary. But it is just it's a thing you will deal with. And as far as the dark side of the paranormal, the only thing I can really tell you more than anything is learn how to protect yourself. Learn it because it's out there. You can't run from it. You can't tell me there's a place anywhere that's active that really doesn't have a chance for a dark or a negative experience. It all does. You just got
Right.
to be very careful of what you're getting into with it. That's really kind of it. But
Agreed.
yeah, watch your people, watch your folks. Um, that's hyper important. And again, if things starts getting sideways, take a break. So I'll step outside, smoke them if you got them, grab something to eat, grab a Coke. Especially when something traumatic happens to a team member or to a team. I always highly recommend you bring Cokes with you or something sugary because that'll
Mm-hmm.
take you out of the shock that you're getting into because you will go into shock. this event that happened with us on our last filming we did um, shocked the majority of my team. I really thought, based on what happened, that I was going to wind up losing some of them. That's how negative it got. I called everybody individually as the founder of this group, and I said, "Look, I will fully understand if you don't want to come back." So yeah, it got real crazy, personal, negative, and thankfully my team's got some guts and gusto, so we're all still here. But crazy, absolutely crazy, guys. Do you have questions about the negative effects or negative parts of the paranormal before we kind of, because we're already at, holy mackerel, we only got 20 minutes left. Um, does anybody have any questions about it that we can answer for you guys? We more than happy to, if you have. Um, but yeah, with the negative and the paranormal, uh, I don't know. I've got so many experiences I can't even talk about them all.
I think
I
what's
think.
important, yeah, I think what's important is, um, do your due diligence. Don't take it lightly. Don't, I'll be fine, or I didn't feel anything, or just because if you, and here's another thing. For people who aren't even wanting to paranormal investigate, but say you decide you want to travel, you're going to go down to Mexico, you want to see the Mayan ruins, you're going to go to Egypt, you're going to see the pyramids, you're going to go, I don't know, I'm making it up, you're going to an old church in England. If you don't think for 1 minute that there is an energy associated or attached to that, you gotta cleanse yourself.
That's right. You do.
I have an exorcism bag, I call it. I have my cleansing bag that I take everywhere. As a matter of fact, tomorrow I'm going to do a cleansing. But I have it, I take it with me everywhere I go, because you never know when you're going to need it. You never know.
Right.
And it's important. Even when I'm traveling, even on a vacation, I've got it. I have a summer home, a summer trailer. I've got it there. I've got it with me. I've got it in my car. I've got it in my purse. I've got it in, some people carry an EpiPen. I carry sage, like, and holy water, like I carry it with me. So, even if you think you're going to travel and you're going to have these new experiences and it sounds exciting, please do your due diligence. You want to go down to New Orleans? Go down to New Orleans, but be prepared.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's the biggest challenge. And, a couple of weeks ago, um, we had a conversation about. I just kind of made it impromptu, um, about having a plan for what I call paranormal trauma.
Right.
And I think that's ultra important to always have a plan for the paranormal trauma. I talked about having sugary drinks to have in case somebody goes into shock. Yep. Have a first aid kit. Have a lot of water. You have a lot of that you need to have it. You need to know how to react.
Yep.
So it's not just a matter of going out and investigating and catching some spirit activity. It's protecting you and your team, protecting you and your friends. When you go out, you've got to have a plan. Talk about it beforehand, because eventually something's going to happen. Katie has said it time and time again. It's not a matter of if, it's when. When it's going to happen. Are you prepared? Because I'm going to tell you, if you're not prepared to handle that right on the nose, it can cause a lot of damage you're not prepared for. Kathy said, I want to learn protection and encouragement of white, good, positive stuff. The one I always tell people to start out with, honestly, is the white bubble of light, emanating out of your chest, expanding around you, to it's really just surrounding you with white energy. And your mind has to be here, and your mind has to be set. The one thing I will tell you about any kind of positive protection technique is conviction. If you are not convinced completely that protection situation, that protection system, that protection thing is going to do the job that it is supposed to do, it's worthless. Because honestly, your mind is one of the most powerful weapons there is out there. So if you don't prepare yourself to think that white light emanating around you is going to protect you and convict yourself of that, you're wasting your time.
And excuse me, there goes the old saying, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Right. Excuse me.
All right. So, okay. So we got that. We got that. All right. So Herbie says, is it wrong to study the paranormal like reading up on it? I ask because I've read books on demonology and witchcraft, and praise God, I've never had a diabolical experience, which I'm not asking for, but I think knowledge is power. Yes, knowledge is absolutely power. Yeah, there's nothing wrong
Absolutely.
with it at all. But here's the thing you have to understand. For example, watching the television shows, the investigative television shows, opens your mind to the metaphysical.
Mhm.
And when you open your mind to the metaphysical, be prepared for something to happen. Be prepared for energy to happen because your mind is set for it.
Yeah. So
Something to think about.
I explain it like the car, right? Think of your vehicle. If you don't, think of something that you own. If you don't own a vehicle, think of your vehicle. Think of the make, the model, the color, all of that stuff. Now, think about how many of those vehicles you noticed before you purchased it. Now think of all the vehicles that you've noticed since you've purchased it. You weren't out looking for vehicles like yours, but you were consciously aware of it. And you're like, hey, there's one, there's one, there's one. It's the conscious awareness that opens up your consciousness and subconsciousness that brings the stuff in.
Right. It is. Now, Jane says, sorry, I'll try that again. What are your thoughts on being growled at? I've been walking down the street or on the subway in the past and have been growled at by three different people on three different people, living people or dead people. I'm just kidding. Um, the thing we have to remember with growls, grunts, a lot of the time, spirits have not gained the knowledge or the experience or time to be able to form vibrational words. Sometimes growling is the best they can do. And I don't believe that every time I hear a growl, it's like, oh my God, it's a bad guy.
Yeah.
It isn't. I would guarantee you 100% of the time, it is not 100% of the time. Is it
Now she's
something?
saying, Jane's saying living people.
Oh, living people growling. Just, they might be grumpy. You never know. But people that surround you that have those kind of issues going on, there's something going on with them. It's not really you, it's them. They have a lot of challenges and a lot of issues they've got to resolve. People who carry negative burdens of energy there has to be some outlet for the energy. And what I'm saying by that is there has to be something for that energy to do. You can't just keep it bottled up inside. It's got to come out in expressions, actions, behaviors, maybe noises. Could be growling, could be grunting. There's going to be an escape of the energy in some way. And based on what you're telling me, I would say that there's a lot of people dragging some negative energy around with them.
Yeah. It could also
Yeah.
be where you were before. Were you at a church? Were you at, doing spiritual cleansings? What were you doing at that moment? And it may be excuse me, I'm coughing up a storm here. It may be what you were doing and not who you are that caused that change.
All right. So David Hope said, like at work, have a plan on the worst thing that can go wrong and have a plan to deal with it if it happens. Absolutely.
Contingency plan for a contingency plan.
Always plan. I have been with teams. One I got called on to mentor years ago, and they invited me out to this investigation to this haunted location and very active location. And one of the team members got struck down by something, and everybody stood there and freaked out. Just stood there and freaked out. There was no contingency plan until I kind of jumped in, and I don't like doing that. I'm not here to jump in and take anybody's team over. But when you got a team member down, you better have a plan. You need to talk about it. There needs to be somebody, I think, on a team as well that is medically trained, either as an EMT or something like that, to be able to jump in and assess and help. I think that's important. I think it's important to also work, if you can, with a psychic medium. A lot of times they can at least warn you that there's energy coming through. I've done it with my team before as well. Hey, the energy's changed. We might want to do this instead of doing that. Just those kind of things. To me, those are just ways to help buffer whatever negative energy might be coming out towards you folks.
Mhm.
Let me see. Herbie said, seems like the spirits or people want to unnerve you to get a foot in the door. Yeah, sure. I mean, if I can convince your mind that what I'm telling you and having you do is correct and it works, yeah, why not?
Absolutely.
What have we got to lose? Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it, man. Um, yeah, I mean, it's really just it really is all dependent upon what again their intent is. Like I said, for some, it's just to kind of get some energy from you, and so they can continue to survive, so to speak. Not to point a pun, but then there are some that have nefarious reasons for an interaction with you. I'll pretend I'm a girl because you'll talk to me because I'm a little girl. And the entire meantime, all the while, I'm going to absorb your energy and attack your life force.
Yeah.
I may even
Excuse
attach
me.
myself to you, but
Yeah.
because I pretended to be a little girl, you know. So there are a lot of nefarious reasons why negative energy goes that direction. But yeah, going through a lot of these. Sorry. Um, okay, so what? Yeah, okay. All right, so Jeb said, I'm easygoing and I cleanse myself and carry protection on ghost hunts, and my attitude changes, but friends put friends down, screaming at people, etc. Does that energy feel better, Katie?
Thank you, Jeff. As you can tell, I'm getting a cough. I think what he's saying is he's an easygoing person normally. He takes care of himself. He's easygoing. But when he goes to ghost hunts, his attitude changes, and he can be screaming or changing his attitude towards his friends, his teammates. Is that energy? Absolutely. You could be picking up the energy in the location, or there could be an attachment happening. Yeah.
Now, Herbie said, when you both go to investigate, do you bring ordained ministers, priests, or other religious beings with you? No, I am actually a former minister. I've also been trained by a shaman. No, I mean I had on our shoot, I have a deacon of the old Catholic Church that is there, who's also a demonologist for our filming. So he's always there for whatever he needs to. But here's the thing, just to kind of put this out there, and we've talked about this a long time ago, I think. But for those that go look at the religious aspect of paranormal investigating, you have to understand that there are some, I'm not going to say all, but there are some negative spirits that could care less about your God.
Yep.
So bringing anybody of the clergy, bringing somebody who's willing to bring holy water, might just do nothing but piss them off. And I've
Antagonize.
seen it
Yep.
happen time and time again. So that's why I still like Katie. I still use sage, Palo Santo wood, salt water. I will cleanse an area with sea salt and circle a house. I'll bind the house out. I'll go clockwise, not winter shins, but I'll go clockwise around the house 3 times with a ring of sea salt. I'll bind the house out after I clean it. I'm also a former minister, so I understand the religious aspect of things, and I will utilize a combination sometimes of religious items because you may have spirits that are in a location that have a faith base that understand the power of God, right? So I will utilize some of that as well, try to cover all the bases. But if you don't cover all the bases, and those that think that possibly everything out there is afraid of God, ooh, no, 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 no. There are a lot of things out there that are not afraid of God at all. Yeah. But yeah, I appreciate your question, Harvey. Stephanie says your hair looks gorgeous, Katie. You should see the quarter to quarter.
Should I tell everybody? Should I tell
Huh?
everybody? Should I tell everybody? Okay,
Yeah.
everybody, full disclosure. My hair did not look like this when I started. It looked like I was in a wind tunnel. And I'm going to put it out there. I'm embarrassing myself right now. You can't see it, but this is literally a paintbrush from my painting. I literally took a paintbrush, twisted my hair, and stuck it in. And that's how this is. So literally, it's because I came on and looked like I had done breakdancing on my head. And Richard and I got a laugh about it, and I fixed it really quick, and then we went live. So thank you,
literally in
Stephanie.
30 seconds, she went from
Right?
from bedhead to looking like Mulan in like, I don't know, 15, 30 seconds. It was kind of fun.
So for more paintbrushing tips,
Follow me
please,
for more hair tips.
more beauty tips, just
Wow.
DM me.
Wow. Well, guys, yeah, we're running out of time. So, guys, wow, yeah, we're all running out of time. Hopefully, you guys got something out of this for tonight. I believe we had a pretty wide open discussion. Remember, next week, Jeremy Leonard from 28 Days Haunted, from Ghosts of Morgan City, is going to be out with us. Now, he's actually been on the show before as a guest host. When Katie had been through her issues with COVID last year.
The first time.
Yeah, he was on the show to help out. But get your questions ready to ask him. He's ready to answer them.
Yeah.
And we will have a breakdown of his his guest graphic as we put it out this week. Do you have anything coming up or anything going on?
What do I have going on? I've got cleansings coming up. I've got an investigation potentially coming up. What else? Just the normal 9 to 5. The normal 9 to 5 in my world. What about you?
Well, yeah. December 3rd, we have the final filming location.
I'm so excited
for the documentary, and that'll be the final location. Then it goes to production. Then it goes to the distribution network that it's going to be put on, which I can't talk about.
I'm so excited.
But it's kind of, there's going to be some dramatic stuff on there because, the one location that we had filmed was the one I had just briefly spoke about that involved my fiance, which was, it was the hairiest experience I've ever had in the paranormal in maybe 15 years.
Where?
It was that dramatic. So it was, and the name of the documentary, guys, I could tell you, is called Finding Purgatory. It is filmed by Deacon Tommy Golden, who is also a demonologist. He's a deacon at the Old Catholic Church. So, he's brought this to light because that's the question some people have. What is purgatory? Is purgatory real? Does it exist? So, this documentary was designed to kind of answer that question. So hopefully on our last location here, we got an experiment going on. We're going to go try to see if we can get something done on that. But we'll see. Once it gets released, I will let everybody know. We would love to have your support on that. It would be nice to be able to have everyone's support on it. So thank you. Thank you guys completely. We appreciate it. We're at 28 minutes after the hour. And next week again, we got Jeremy and Leonard. Come on out. Let's have some questions. Let's have a good time. Y'all, please take care of yourselves. Katie, take care of that cough.
I'm trying. And guys, you know what? Lastly, if you have a topic you want to talk about, there's something you want to ask, you know what? You can private message us. You don't have to put it on here if it's something that you want to ask, but you don't want people to think, know you're asking. Please, if you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. Just let us know.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about it. See what I did there? Let's talk about it. See that? Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. We will talk to you later. Please have a great night. Take care.